Oh yeah, that was the hardest part, man. Yeah, that's no joke. Getting someone to give you $500,000 is no joke.
Yep.
That is, especially for a movie. You know, it's the most high risk investment.
Yep.
They really got to believe in you, and they really got to believe in the story. But more importantly, they got to understand the power of tax breaks.
Yep.
Which was one of our biggest forays into a lot of these pitches.
This is Unfiltered Filmmakers, where we talk to writers, producers, and directors about how they sold their scripts, got financing, and made their first films. If you're looking for an insider's conversation about the filmmaking experience, this is the podcast for you.
I am excited to have Director Tiffany Kim Stevens discussing how she made her first feature film, Trigger Happy. Super excited to talk to you about it. It's so funny.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here with me, Tiff.
Oh my God, what a pleasure.
Give me a synopsis, so a little bit about the film.
Well, Trigger Happy is set in a 50s inspired parallel universe where a repressed husband attempts to murder his wife for life insurance. And the world is pretty friggin' wacky in the sense that, you know, in order to have health insurance, you got to own a gun. And that was sort of the world building aspect of it. But, you know, keep it short. Husband tries to murder his wife for life insurance.
Awesome. How did the idea come about for this script?
The idea came about by watching my parents growing up. The main characters, George and Annie, are inspired by my parents. Annie is my dad, George is my mom. And, you know, when you're an only child and all you really know growing up are your parents. And I figured, well, first movie, who are the first people that raised me? Oh, my parents. Let me make a movie about them. But let me satirize them and, you know, take them as a base inspiration and then let them become entertaining characters.
And I know you had story by credit on this, but you didn't write this one.
I did not write it.
Yeah.
I structured the story with our writer, Daniel Moya, but he really took it from 0 to 100 and made it what it is today.
What made you decide for your first feature to not, dive in and write?
I despise writing. I really don't like it at all. I love structure. I love building character. I love working within genre. But to have to put pen to paper is a nightmare for me. And it is tedious, it is taxing. I really have no passion for it whatsoever. And so I figured as I was forewaying into my first feature, I'm going to focus in on one craft, which is directing, which is the only love of my life, truly, and have the screenwriters come in and do their job and make it.
I thought that was interesting. What was the collab process with your writer?
It was formulaic in the sense that we knew we wanted a dark comedy. We understood the genre of a dark comedy. We wanted a 3-act structure. And he would go out, write draft. I would come back and I'd give feedback. And we would start structure and then go into character. And a lot of writers are either plot-driven or character-driven. And because we wanted to go with something that was, in a way, textbook for a first feature, something feasible, we figured, all right, let's focus on the plot first. Let's get those plot points in and then go in and dive into specific character moments and their motivations and why they do the things that they do. But for the most part, a lot of the feedback was just me and our producer, Kyle, looking at formula and understanding what is the formula that's going to pass censorship laws around the world, make it through. We had American Film Market as a huge pack of evidence, stats to be able to back up our feedback to Daniel. Because Daniel in the process, who was really, the main character of the development process, which I think is always the writer, he had the creative vision and I had the backing to say, okay, well, I can take this character and I can make it look like this. I can bring this character to life in terms of how he or she is going to walk, talk, behave. But when it came down to it, all that I could really give him and me and Kyle were, hey, here's the stats that we know and here's what we think is going to sell.
Had y'all worked together before?
No,
that was the
surprisingly not. We met at a coffee shop in Silver Lake and I pitched him the idea and he said, fuck it, I'm in. And it went from there. I think throughout the process, there's always going to be ebbs and flows and people butt heads all the time. But I think we knew that going into it. And we had a very clear mode of communication of, hey, if there's something that you disagree on, you have to let me know up front.
Yep.
And we have to use like a safe word, a buzzword, or something that we know where we can say, hey, this is our peach fuzz moment. I disagree with you. Let's take a day to think about it and come back with pros and cons. And so we were really, really meticulous about communication and workflow since day one. Yeah.
Outside of the AFM moment that you said, were there any like big ticket items attached to it? Stuff
We
that
focused
lended?
on the script first.
Okay.
We needed the script to be as close to pitch ready as possible before attaching anything else, because ultimately that is what we considered the product. Like that is the start. That is the atom of the idea, the
Yeah.
seed
And
of
you didn't try to
inception.
like lean into anything that you had. Like I have this location here, like this house. Or,
Not
okay,
yet.
got it, got
Because
it,
we
got it.
knew that could be ever changing.
Mm.
And we thought about shooting in Oklahoma early on because of the 30% tax break. And then we found out about the 75% tax break, a tax deduction from California. So it was very, we didn't want to attach anything too early. We wanted to hone in on the script. And what really helped is that we submitted to the blacklist and we got a score from anonymous judges on the blacklist, which really gave us leverage to say, okay, this is commercially viable. This is not working. And we scored an 8, which is very high. But it took multiple rounds. And it
really?
helps. And, we sent the script out to all of our friends and family, and that's wonderful. And they gave us their feedback, but they're biased to an extent.
Yeah.
And we just needed strangers to just give us the hard truth.
truths.
Hey, this works. This is shit. This is commercially viable.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting. I like that. I like using the blacklist to use it as
feedback.
coverage. It's like
Yes.
it's like an alternate route for coverage.
100%. It was really needed and really helpful.
Sure.
I wish I knew who those blacklist readers were so I could thank them for their honesty.
Yeah.
But alas, they're all anonymous. So.
And you said you did different rounds, like so you got a lower score first, and then
Yeah.
you polished and
Yeah.
revised and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
we started at a 5.5 and then we got to an 8.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
nice.
and it's not the same readers too,
Yep.
so it just
Yep.
helps. Yeah.
How long did the script writing process take?
2019 to 2021.
Oh wow.
Yeah. 2020 was a glitch, as we all know. But I will say we went through so many different strategies to get funding.
Yeah.
And inevitably, I'm sure we'll talk about it in more detail, but getting the score off the script and starting to pitch in 2020 was really difficult, as you
Yeah.
can imagine.
Yeah.
So what we ended up having to do was making a proof of concept short film version
Gotcha.
of it, which really is what took it off the ground.
Okay, cool. You did the feature script, and then you did a proof of concept
Yes.
short film, and then used
Then
that
we-
to
yeah.
galvanize into going into.
Yes.
You already knew it was going to take you that long to write the script, or just the pandemic kind of pushed you to 2021?
We really didn't have a schedule, and we didn't
Okay.
want to force ourselves into a schedule
Rush the
because we
process.
knew how arduous of a challenge this was going to be.
Yeah.
We knew, like, getting a first feature and getting the funding you need to a first feature is like starting a company. It's no joke. And we wanted to get every single process right before moving on, because we knew this, we were going to play the long-term game. We knew that it takes years to make a feature. Even if it isn't someone's first feature, a feature in general just takes years to make. So we really didn't want to rush anything. As artists, and I'm sure you feel this way, that at least I do, I know that inspiration is everything.
Yep.
And no matter how much you try to force something, if it doesn't come naturally with inspiration, it's trash. 10 times, like 100% of the time, it's trash. And sitting down and forcing yourself to write, you crumple the paper, you throw it in the bin, you crumple the paper and throw it in the bin. You're just wasting time. You're working hard, not smart.
Yep.
And I think so much of, at least in the screenwriting and the development process, it's about using that spark of inspiration and riding that wave, as opposed to sitting down and being like, okay, now write.
For sure. Yeah. Who were the first people you attached to the script?
First person we attached was Christina Kirkman, who plays Gemma Breyer, and she was in the original proof of concept.
Gotcha.
And so based on that, she had the right of first refusal. We said, hey, we got funded. Do you want to stay on the project? She was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So
Yeah.
she was the first attached. Yeah, and then Elsha, who was our Annie, came next, and then Tyler, and then Matt.
Gotcha.
Tyler was
Gotcha.
George, and then Matt playing Mikey.
Was there a lot that you gained of experience from the short to the feature?
Huge jump.
Yeah.
Massive jump.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like going from a half marathon to Ironman.
Were you able to take anything?
Story, yes, well, because we wrote the feature first and we had to boil it down to a short, that's a task in itself. Short films are hard,
Yeah.
super hard. But the biggest one is communication workflow, from me to department heads to their departments. That was the biggest thing
Yeah.
that I learned from short to feature.
So as far as development, how much was budget?
$500,000.
How did you split that percentage wise between production and post?
We basically did 400 for production and 100 for post.
Makes sense. Your
Yeah.
production design, lighting, and even your practical effects was legit.
Thank
Super
you.
legit.
Much needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an incredible DP, Shawnee Bryan, incredible production designer, Dorothy Zhu. I mean, our entire stunts team and armor team were so cool. Charles Courier and Chris Dukes, oh, such professionals. Yeah, I mean, I knew that a good chunk of this film was world building, and you need those superheroes to be able
Absolutely.
to come together and become
Yeah.
the Avengers to make all that happen.
How much of it was like liquid, in kind, deferred?
All of it was liquid.
All of it was liquid. Any kind of self-funding or crowdfunding, I should say, or
Private equity.
private? Gotcha. Was that hard
Yeah.
getting that?
Oh yeah, that was the hardest part, man. Yeah, that's no joke. Getting someone to give you $500,000 is no fucking joke.
Yep.
That is, especially for a movie. You know, it's the most high risk investment.
Yep.
They really got to believe in you, and they really got to believe in the story. But more importantly, they got to understand the power of tax breaks.
Yep.
Which was one of our biggest forays into a lot of these pitches, because the IRS deducted that if 75% of a film is shot in California, you get a tax break for being in California. Tax deduction. Yeah.
Which is where you filmed?
We filmed in California.
Whether it's studio or bigger productions. That's rare now, I feel like. For California, like I feel
For
like
California, it
I've
is
been-
rare, and I think it's worth it because it was an under $2 million script.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything over that, probably not worth it. That's why we chose not to go to Oklahoma, because 30% back from 500K, like that's
And you would
when
have
they
to
can-
fly
Yeah.
and build your crew out
Yeah,
there
exactly.
and fly your team out there,
Exactly.
your
When-
department keys.
an investor can just say, okay, I put in $100 and I can take $100 out of my taxes.
So let's dive into that what you said, it's hard for the getting that money. I feel like the 200 or the 100 to like $1 million is a Bermuda's Triangle, right? Like you get these, people don't take you serious like financiers if it's not 2 million and above or like 5 million and above. Like they don't feel like investment they'll put in, but then it's over 100. So it could potentially be an expensive doorstopper. And so you're in this Bermuda Triangle where you're
Absolutely.
still considered super, super indie, but no one's grandma just has
Nope.
500,000 sitting
Nope.
around and, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Really strange space.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, studio is not worth knocking on unless it's 2 million plus, because to them they're like, well, it's theatrical, that's print advertising so much. Well,
Yep.
what can you do with 2 million? You're like, okay, fine. Y'all are used to the big budgets.
Yep.
And then it's hard to go to friends and family and be like, hey, just give me $500,000. You guys have that? No? Okay, damn.
No, damn.
So
Grandma? No?
yeah.
Was this like a tag teaming thing or was just you trying to get funding? Like you were the solo?
For the most part.
Really?
Yeah. How my business partner and I structure our company and this feature was that I was the CFO. I went out and got the money. Once the money was in, he dealt with everything else. I didn't see the budgets. I didn't,
On purpose, you did that?
On purpose. They were all available to me via the Google Drive, but I
you wanna
chose,
stay in there.
I was like, look, I got it. You deal with the rest of it.
Did you get the entire funding before you triggered going into production?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no, that's a lie. We had 425 before going into production.
Like when you got up to that amount, how did you feel?
It was like surreal, and we realized how much work there still is to do. You know, like it's nice to imagine the finish line, you know, where we can go back to our investors and be like, here's your money back. But we know we had a super long road ahead of us, but we were just excited to go into it. Yeah. It's like playing a video game. You know, it's like you reach level 1 and you're like, all right, we made it to level 1. Now let's get to level 2. It gets way harder.
Up until that moment going into production, would you have done anything different?
That's a great question. I would have thought about sales and distribution earlier.
At that point?
At
like
that point.
Script to
During
getting
development.
funding?
Absolutely.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Because moving forwards, I don't want to be in the indie game forever.
Yeah.
I want to be into studio, and studio cares about acquisitions and distribution to different territories. And I would have wanted to have a sales agent look at the script and say, hey, this is what I think it could sell for in Europe. This is what I think it could sell for in Asia. This is what I think it could sell for in Africa. And even without a budget, I would have wanted a sales agent to come in and give their opinion on what the budget could be and where it could
It's almost
sell.
like a poor man's negative picture deal.
Yes.
Like just kind of knowing
Yes.
what that number is.
Yes. Just to have reference, just to be clearer with executives and investors to be like, hey, this is what the pipeline looks like and this is where we think we can sell.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Wow.
And I think more than anything, the biggest learning curve was that, when you're a writer-director, you're creative and your soul is creative and you are an artist at heart. As a director, a pure director, yes, you are an artist. Yes, you are a visionary in your own way, but you're also a businesswoman.
Yep.
You have to have your foot in both corporate Hollywood and the indie space with all the production creatives and understanding what that looks like. That's something that I really learned, is that you have to speak to an investor and you got to speak to a DP.
What were some of the hardest things to lock down while you were in pre-production, before you got into production?
Aside from funding, which was the hardest thing.
Oh, yeah, aside from funding.
Contracts, insurance, the minutia, the little things, the miscellaneous things that you don't think about. Because you think about, okay, locations, great. You think about, crafty, great, catering, all that. You have the big stuff down because you're excited. You're like, let's dive into it, let's go. But then you don't think about the little things like toilets. Where are they going to be?
Yep.
How many are there going to be?
Yep.
Do we get the trailers with the toilets for the actors, or do we have everybody in communal bathrooms? Little things.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you're not trying to make an indie first feature like with the homies.
It was a SAG shoot. We had contracts. We needed to be as close to union as possible because I want to be able to scale to studio. So we ran this as close to a studio set as possible.
Like you mimic where you want to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your cast size in general, like cast and team?
Cast and team altogether, I think we had like 45 to 55. On the stunt days, we had more people.
Once you got into production that you had locked, did any unexpected changes happen?
Yeah, one of our cast members actually got into a motorcycle accident right in the middle of pre-production. It was devastating, honestly. Yeah, he called us from the hospital. We sent him flowers. It was really, aside from the fact that, we're losing a cast member and, there's the kerfuffle of all that, just how scary life can end, just like that. He didn't die, but, it's like any moment, anything could happen, and life's so short, and we're so grateful to be able to do the things that we do and pursue the passions that we want to. And we had a moment in the meeting room where we were like, damn, we shouldn't be taking any of this for granted. As stressed and tired and, exasperated as we are doing what we love.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, this actor can't be on set because his life nearly ended. So that was a fast turnaround to get another cast member. Yeah.
Wow. How did you go about casting this? This was such a great ensemble. Like you had to be weird, you had to be funny, you had to be quirky. Then you had like your moments where you had to like, I got to perform, I got to deliver like a drama monologue.
Well, we had a casting director. Her name's Adrienne Stern. She's the indie queen of casting. I love her. She's got this like boisterous New York personality, and she's such a go-getter. But one thing specifically that I was trying to decipher was the difference between comedians and comedic actors. It's a very fine line, but it was a huge difference looking at a lot of the tapes that we received and reaching out to the people that we wanted to. Essentially what Adrienne did is that we wrote her a breakdown of the characters. She sent it out into her void, and then we got a bunch of submissions, and I sat at my computer for 2 weeks, back to back, 12 hours, watching every single submission. That was quite something.
Yeah.
And we went with comedic actors as opposed to comedians.
How did you piece together the couples and then the ensembles that have to play across from each other?
I didn't, actually. I wasn't as intentional about pairing as probably I should have been. What I did was communicate the acting style that I wanted very early on. And once all actors understood the style and technique that I was going for, everybody was on the same page. Because every actor has their own method, right? Some of them are Brechtian, some of them are Stanislavskian, some of them love Chekhov, and however they get themselves into character, that's what they do. But I was very cognizant of being like, hey, we're going with very heightened naturalism here. We're not going melodrama. We're not going naturalism. We are going heightened naturalism, not very pantomime-esque. And I think they got that. And I think in certain moments, I was like, we're going to be a little drier here. And so as long as I can communicate and speak their language, everybody was on the same page.
Well, how many days did you shoot? And then did you have any reshoots?
No reshoots. We had no budget for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we did not have any luxury with reshoots or pickups or anything because
so you had to just get what you got.
We were so militant in pre-production about everything because we
Okay.
knew we were like, this is a tiny budget. Like,
Did you have rehearsal days, at least with the talent?
no, I don't think we did, but we had rehearsal time on set.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you had a bunch of
Obviously.
interior spaces that you can get those moments. Obviously,
Yeah.
the external ones might have been a little bit harder, but did you?
Yeah, we had to get them done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and also it's a budget thing, right? We didn't have the budget for rehearsals and to have all those SAG actors come out and, and as an ensemble and their schedules. So we
Yeah.
really had to factor that into the day.
Gotcha. Walk me through, how did you lock down and land the airport?
Ah,
That location and scene. Obviously, it looked like a real ass hangar to me.
it was a real hangar. Investors, one of our EPs, is a pilot. She flies. And originally we were going to do that whole scene in an indoor skydive center. And she said, well, why don't you just use the airport that I learned how to fly in?
Yeah.
And we said, cool, you know the guy? And she's like, I know the guy. So that was where we got very lucky because of her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing when EPs come through?
Yeah.
With like
Yeah.
big ticket items?
Yeah. Yeah. They gave us the homie rate. It was really
it
great.
upped the production quality, like when you're dealing with
Yeah.
a first feature.
Also, as a side note, I should say that airplane is for sale, which helped getting it on camera.
What do you mean?
The airplane, that airplane's for sale. So it was easy for the owners of the flight school to be like, hey, let's put this airplane on camera so
Just so that they
people can see that if they want to buy it. It's
nice.
available.
It's like coordinated advertisement.
Yeah, coordinated advertisement.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. What was your communication process, not just with talent, but like throughout?
I was very adamant on me through department heads and then department heads to their departments. I say hi to everybody. I remembered everybody's name. I made everybody a watercolor. But on set, when it came from my direction, it was really only DP, PD, gaffer, pretty much first AD,
Cool.
and producer.
Gotcha. So you can kind of lock in. How many days did you say
Stunts.
you shot again?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Was it five on?
5 on.
Okay.
Everybody got 2 days off.
2 days. Okay. Then that was your first marathon of a process going through a feature. What did that feel like?
Exhausting. I have been on set before, obviously, but to direct something that many days in a row was physically very taxing. I would wake up, caffeinate myself, get to set, be buzzing, lose steam throughout the middle of the day, smoke a fuck ton of nicotine just to keep myself sane. Then I'm wired, so then I gotta take a melatonin to go to sleep, and then I'm loopy, and then I wake up and I'm still loopy from the melatonin, and then I caffeine myself up again, and it's just the cycle keeps going. And with all those substances, it curbs your appetite. And so you don't get proper nourishment, you're not taking vitamins, you're not drinking enough water, and you're just floating and you're just going because everyone from every direction is like, what now? Now, what now? This. Now you have this time to rehearse. Now you have this time to shoot. Like it's
like even your 2 days off is not days off for you.
No, because I chose to spend my weekends making watercolors for the crew. And I gave myself like 1 walk a day during lunchtime, and even then during my walk it's great. I didn't eat because I just didn't have the appetite. So there was just so much going, and I have a bunch of other older directing mentors, and they said, yo, when you are on set doing months at a time, it's like being an athlete.
Yeah.
You got to train for it. You got to get a sport. You got to be in the gym. You got to take your supplements. You got to have a routine down. You got to be able to walk on the treadmill for hours. Think about it. Like if you're on your feet for 12 hours, you got to be able to sustain that. So that's something I wish I had known prior to going into production, because it was physically very, very difficult.
Physically demanding than what we would think.
Yes.
Especially
way
folks like
more
us
physically
coming from shorts.
demanding. Yeah.
Like a 3-day sprint, a
Yeah.
4-day sprint.
Yeah. Mentally, obviously, as well. It just takes your whole soul.
Yep.
It's like you're the ultimate mom. The entire thing is just bleeding from you physically and mentally.
What was the worst thing that went wrong on set?
We had a major continuity problem that we had to cut scenes and restructure in post.
Were you noticing that on
No.
set? Okay.
We didn't pick it up on set.
And no reshoot days.
No reshoot days, which we didn't notice it, and then we got to post and I was like, "Hold on. This is completely wrong." And we had to restructure the third act, which was tough. Was tough to do.
Yeah.
Especially since no reshoots, no pickups.
Yeah. What would you say was your lowest moment on set and then your highest moment on set?
We had a transport accident, and it just so happened to be on the day where we had investor day, and we had an investor on the bus, and that was a bit embarrassing. But she was fine. Everybody was fine. But that was a little embarrassing. And the highlight, I would say, close-up shot of a vacuum going in to pick up a lottery ticket. And these old vacuums don't work. They're display vacuums.
Yep.
So the art department was trying, but I told the DP and I told the PD, I want this monstrous horror-esque shot where the vacuum just comes at you out of nowhere like this absolute crazy monster. They're like, how are we going to do that if it's that close? We can't, it literally cannot pick up the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And also they needed to tape the lottery ticket down so it stayed, in place. They're like, how are we going to do this? Then the key grip came up with an idea for a shot. He said, what if we do it this way? And then our set deck was like, well, what if we tape the bottom of the vacuum so it picks up the lottery ticket with tape? And we were like, it could work. Let's try it. And we did it in one take, and it was just absolute rejoicing because we had taken so long to try and figure out how to do it, and then we got it in one take.
And then like different departments and teams coming together.
The real superstars were the key grip and the set deck and the below the line crew that got to be creative and collaborative, and that was really a shining moment for me to see other young upcoming filmmakers have their moment, which was great.
What did you shoot on, camera lens-wise?
We shot on an Alexa Mini. Lenses, we had 50-25 and something else. I don't remember.
Super primes.
Yeah.
And talk about it. Give your set design and like lighting some love, man. It was just like beautiful,
incredible
all the way through. Like there was no like indie inconsistencies.
Production design is so important to me,
especially for a period piece.
Yeah, I love wallpaper. Dude, the power of wallpaper. It's really the only thing that can make a flat surface look dimensional. It really is. It's a hack. It's a beautiful hack, and it's busy and it's uncomfortable too when it's like too in your face. And so much of the Decker home is supposed to be an uncomfortable space. Yep. And so I wanted to go with something that was just like, astringent for the eyes, but also color palette works with the world and their costumes. And having, costume department co-create with the art department was a really big one. Yeah. And also makeup. I mean, our makeup team was incredible. Just all their prosthetics and like being able to create the dimension on the actors' faces and flat moments. And world building is my thing. Yeah. I love world building. I think that's what separates a writer-director from a director-director, because you really take the writing to life. Whereas a writer-director already knows exactly what they want, how they see it. Whereas I can go in and look at a script and say, hey, this is what the world's going to look like.
Were those already pre-built stages or pre-themed stages? Like the house, grocery store, specifically those, or did y'all build that up to what it was?
No. The house was an actual house where the lovely location manager let us put peel and stick wallpaper and bring in pieces of furniture. We found the house on Peerspace, and she used it for films before, so that was great. Another reason why we had to have a large discussion around the toilets, because we couldn't use her toilets, and we had to, you had to bring in toilets, and we lined the street with trailers and everything. It was crazy. And the Kent store was already a soundstage that was pre-built, and we just put in our own products.
I was going to ask about product, because I saw like the Kent designs are just different
put the logo
products. The Rat Poison. I was like, man, like you went deep to make sure these fit the time period. It fit your piece.
Yes.
It felt unique, one of one to Tiffany's film.
Cheers. Yeah, that was all intentional. And a lot of it came down to our production designer. Really early discussions with her and being able to say, hey, we're going to create everything. We're going to Harry Potter it. She was like, and I was like, yes, it's happening.
How far were these locations from each other? How many company moves were you doing throughout the three?
The Decker home, a week and a half. Then the remaining of the second half of the second week, we did Burgers Now. And then the last location was this mega soundstage that had Kent's, the diner, and the green screen. And then we did one company move for the skydive day.
What day did you put them walking down the street and then the military woman with the bullhorn?
That was a really stressful day, actually.
Talk to me about it.
Because it was sunlight. We're battling light. And we're so used to being able to control the lights indoors. And suddenly we were like, oh, the sun. No, not the sun. That was terrible. That was a really, really scary day. Yeah, we did. It was half a day. We did that half a day because I remember we wrapped up at the Decker home and then we went to Glendale because the dark home was Burbank, and then we went to Glendale for Megaphone. Ooh, I was physically running around that day. I was physically sprinting.
Yeah.
That was tough. And I think also because base camp was so far from where we shot, and we did not have the luxury of golf carts or anything. So so we were just running back and forth.
Yeah. Trying to beat light.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we did like 2 takes max.
You tried to get her monologue or whatever through one so that it
Yeah.
fit and you can
Yeah,
chop
we
it up
could
throughout.
track it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because there is a couple moments where he's walking by, he
Yeah.
has to walk by, and
Yeah.
then, if I'm not mistaken, then he has to change shirt.
Yeah. The costume department set up like a on the spot camping changing tent so he could just go in and change. Her costume and her makeup was really extensive, so the majority of her time was spent in the makeup chair in the trailer, and then when she came out we shot her out in like an hour or something like that because of the light. Yeah, that was rough. That was a rough day. But we made it.
No, my filmmaker brain
Yeah.
was going in this, and I was
Yeah.
like, first of all, you're coming into a situation where it's not a contained first feature, multiple locations,
Yeah.
internal, external, and you got to go get the plane stuff,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
got to get that external
Yeah.
stuff on that
Yeah,
street.
look, I'm glad the world looked vast. That was the bottom line, so thank you. But yeah, there was moments like that where you just had to really trust your team,
Yeah.
trust your AD, and like say, hey, if we can't get it, that's okay. Yeah.
Was the falling skydive VFX?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
But obviously, when they got there,
They were
once
right
you did
there.
the close up,
That was practical.
nearly lost my shit. Like, she's like, "Ah!" And then the camera just went another close up. "Ah!" Oh man! And then he's like, no. But I'm like, are you freaked out that it happened, or are you freaked out that the mission didn't go?
That it failed. Yeah. Obviously a bit of both, I think.
Yeah. Walk me through some of your practical effects. Obviously, there's a bunch of stabbing, there's a bunch of blood splatter.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
getting that practical.
Yeah, so it was a big collaboration between me, the armor, and the stunt coordinator. So Charles, our armor, and Chris, our stunt coordinator. We all were very cognizant in the pre-production process of how they were going to move and how they were going to be choreographed. So I remember Kyle, our producer, and Hunter, our first AD, physically filming me with their iPhones in a room like this, where we were like, and they're going to take 3 steps and they're going to turn this way. So we were really meticulous about choreography earlier on. And I was also really clear with what kind of weapons we were going to use. And we had discussions with Charles about the time period and like an ode to the Vietnam War and all those things. What was super fun though was having the makeup department come in with different blood samples and the different consistencies, and then having them assess them against their skin tones and all of the intricacies of that and how it was going to bleed and what it was going to look like and the viscosity, but also the rig itself of how they were going to manually pump it up, pump the blood out. It was, all the stunts, like we had multiple stabbing scenes, and then we had one, gun scene that was cool. That was a paintball with a blood bullet. Yeah, it was all fun. We did that swerve take probably like 20 times. Yeah, we'd spent a lot of time on that take. One of our stunts, people had to aim the gun from off camera, so it looked like George's hand, but it wasn't George's hand because he couldn't legally do that. So there was also the legalities around post rust. I don't know much of the detail about it. That's a Kyle producer question, but I know that there were certain things where the actor couldn't fire the gun or like press the trigger
coming out of the post rust situation.
Same with Mikey when he shoots George, like he couldn't physically pull the trigger. So the legalities I really left to the stunt cord and Kyle to deal with. My involvement in that was making sure that we got the shot and the choreography was right and it looked believable. So
now that you've wrapped, what was the last final day like, and how are you feeling?
Final day was a doozy because it was also investor day. So it was the roughest day because we had that transpo accident. All of our investors that could make it came to the set on that day because why not? Because obviously they should be there. And it was also the easiest day in the sense that it was all the green screen. So it was just set up smooth, easy. Yeah, we all cried. Yeah, it was very emotional. And it was a moment of disbelief, if anything. Yeah, you spend months with your crew, at least department heads, prepping for it. And then you're finally finished level 2 of your game and you're moving into level 3.
Did you have everyone come back to set on final day? Because it's always hard. Like, it's always hard, like trying to get the group photo on final day.
Yeah,
and then if you don't have...
Well, because we were at the location with the restaurant and the green screen and Kent's, everybody just so happened to be there anyways. Yeah, we got very lucky in that sense. So, yeah.
You've wrapped out. You're going to head into post. Anything you'd have done different?
Giving department heads more resources ahead of time and trying not to change my mind on set. There were moments where I did have to change my mind, and I really needed to for the sake of the story, but I really hated telling the department heads that, hey, we're going to change this, because they had planned so meticulously for what it was originally going to be, and I just made that decision, and I really did not like having to do that.
And was it you just had a different idea, or just a circumstance of scenario that forced you to have to change?
Different idea. Yeah, if it's a circumstances scenario, I think I would have felt less guilty, but also there are just certain things that just you need to get done for the story and for the execution of the final product, that I was like, hey, I have to put my foot down and change this right now. And it's hard to tell your crew that, because they're fighting tooth and nail to make your vision happen, and then you're like, I'm gonna change that, and they're like,
and sometimes it's hard until you're in the space the day off. Like you've got to live with this material in different spaces. Like the movie that's written, the movie that's in pre-production, the movie that's in principal is different from the movie that's in editing, right? And we're still at the beginning, the younger years of our film career. So it's like, it's a tough thing to wrestle with.
Yeah, because sometimes you do have to make those executive decisions for the betterment of the story and the sale.
So now in post, talk a little bit about your collaboration with your editor, the editing process.
Yeah, Carter, our editor, is awesome. He's been on the project. He did the short film as well. I love post. I thrive in post. It's my favorite part of the filmmaking process, I swear. Carter and I have very similar senses of humor, and we both bonded over our favorite movie, which is RoboCop. So we're very like, yeah. We love the self-aware, like Paul Verhoeven vibe. What we did was that we broke it down to 3 acts. And I told him, like, he's also based in New York. So I went to go to New York after he had done the assembly, and then we just went act by act, and we just really honed in together. And it was just such a fucking joy, because we have the same sense of humor. So we were able to like hit the punchlines together and really have a blast. It was really fun.
How long was editing?
6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6. No, 8. He had 8 weeks. And I was there for the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that around the time when you kind of stumbled upon the story structure restructuring?
Yes. Yeah, because I remember him calling it out, being like, hey, we have a big continuity problem here. And then together, Carter and I figured out a solution.
For you, what makes post-production, like you love post-production side?
Came from post as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I started out as an editor when I graduated school.
Oh, nice.
And I've just always known that, I hate to say it, but it can always be fixed in post. And most of the time, the film is fixed in post. In fact, post is everything. Without post, there's nothing.
It's theater.
It's theater. I'm with you. I'm a post girl, and I've always has been since day one. It is the best, and again, it is the best part of the filmmaking process. And I think also, being that I did come from post on set, I knew I could see the cut, I could see the edit.
That helps.
As the film was going through, I knew when to cut, and I knew when to.
What was that process like with your editor? Like being a editor-driven director, working with another editor?
Well, I think what's great is that Carter is also a great director.
Okay.
We had met in college. We were in the same film fraternity, and he had directed one of the projects, and he was always very talented. And I originally went to him to write the script. And he said, hey, I think I'm a better editor than I am a writer, so here's my friend Daniel. But I already knew that he had a director's brain.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to work with an editor who understood story. And he understands story extremely well. Because anyone can learn the technical, right? That's easy if you put your hours to it. But understanding story and character and creativity, that's the shining star amongst great editors. And I knew that we would be able to sit and collaborate as directors and editors together, which was super important to me.
Were there any challenges in editorial for you outside of the moment with the structure?
Sound was, I think, challenging for our sound team, like Denise and Tiago, who are so fun, by the way. Oh, being in the sound mix in the Foley rooms. Oh, so fun. Aside from cleaning up the audio and the bass audio, I came to them and said, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And they were like, what? Now we got to create soundscapes? I'm like, yeah, we got to create soundscapes. One thing that, Denise and I were really adamant on was being able to create dimension in the Decker home. And we were very cognizant of like 5-point surround sound and then also mono sound from speakers and phones, and how we were going to be able to communicate that level of dimension to the audience. So obviously the gas leak is a big recurring piece of iconography in the film. And, you know, him being frustrated in the shower in the bathroom is also another big piece.
Yep.
So we were so adamant, both of us, of having gas going through pipes of the house throughout all the Decker scenes. And it's so it's there, it's in the background, and it's
Yeah.
so it's low and you really wouldn't notice it, but without it, huge difference. And being able to create those dimensions was a tough process for Dinesh and Tiago. Tiago did the Foley, Dinesh did the mix, but they both were both sound designers in their own right. Yeah, so that, and then creating, you know, sounds like the airplane kind of always in the background somewhere, dogs and all that, and
Yep.
was just taking it from like, we had the skeleton, we had the meat, we had the nerves and the veins, and then sound to me is like the skin. And then also having them work with Peter, our composer, to bring those things together was
Yep.
quite beautiful. And then like the spotting session with Peter was so fun. We're both not from America, so we had a good time commenting on our interpretations of America with an American movie while we were drinking our Hong Kong lemon teas.
Nice.
And we were thinking about instruments for certain characters and cultural moments that we could push, and also understanding subtext, which is what I always want the score to be. A good example is like if you're working with a scary scene and you know it's a jump scare, most horror movies will go with something that'll like bring the anticipation for that jump scare. I like doing the complete opposite. So whatever's on the screen, the sound's going to be the opposite of what you're supposed to feel.
Now that you have your film, right? A, how are you feeling?
At that point, I was sort of angsty in the sense that I didn't have my next project already. I was like, okay, this is good, but what's next?
What made you think about that?
Trajectory, I guess, you know? In my perfect world, I'd be going to the festival circuit with a pitch for the next movie.
Yeah, because that's what they're going to ask you, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
Yeah.
What do you have next?
Right.
Are you at the beginning stage of your festival run?
Yeah,
right now?
we are at the start of the festival journey, and we already have a sales agent, which is fantastic. His name's
Wow.
Todd. He's a great sales guy.
Gotcha.
He's got such he's got a charismatic personality. And next year, hopefully, the film will be out.
How early did you start submitting to festivals?
Literally a week after post. Yeah, because we wanted to hit that deadline for the 2024 circuit. Cinequest, Braindance, Santa Barbara.
You had a very specific kind of strategic goal, not like I'm going to submit to Sundance and
again,
Tribeca and Berlinale.
It's a budget thing. It's always a budget thing, at least with micro budgets. Yeah, we had to be very careful about where we're going to put, because we had our festival fees under marketing, so we had to allocate a certain percentage.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But so the amount of festivals you've submitted to is what you mean?
Yeah. And we were very intentional about which festivals. And we thought about, you know, is our specific target demographic, who's going to understand the humor, what is the marketing of that festival itself, and will that fit in with their brand?
Did you bring someone in to get advice, or did your team just kind of had that knowledge?
Yeah, our team thought about it. After post, going back to the drawing board and going back to business strategy and understanding where to go from here.
What point in this journey did you set the festival deadline goal?
We set it in pre-production.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, and because we wanted to hit the early deadlines because they're cheaper.
Yeah,
so we're like, we gotta get it in now.
Like, at what point did you get your sales agent? Because normally I feel like you get that at a festival, like your first premiere.
What was great about Investor Day is that we had brought distributors as well. Because I was already thinking ahead. Because again, like you said, making the film is only 50% of the journey.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I was ever going to get an opportunity to make a second one with a studio, they're going to want to know that the film's sold. And up to that, I had been going to a bunch of distributor networking events in LA, just random ones off Eventbrite, and just getting in, just trying to talk to as many distributors as possible.
Really?
Yeah, and sort of pre-pitching them the idea, saying, hey, I'm going into production, whatever, would love to have you on set and whatever. And yeah, some of them came, and it was great for them to see our process and how we work and how I work, which already they were able to vouch for me and then refer me on to a sales agent.
Were people receptive of your process, even though you were pre-production? Pre-production?
I think they were excited to be part of that, because they don't get to have that. You know, they usually come in with a completed film and they watch and they decide, but for them to be part of the production process, at least on that one day, they felt really special.
Yeah, no, that feels like a unique angle on it, I think. I like that. I would have never thought of including sales agent
Yeah.
that early and how receptive
Yeah.
they would be and excited
Well,
because
how I think ahead of it, it's like when you're in pre-production, you're obviously thinking and talking about production. When you're in production, you're thinking about post. When you're in post, you're thinking about distribution. When you're in distribution, you're thinking about festivals. Like you already are thinking to the next level while you're in it. So just having them on set on the last day was really helpful.
obviously you are at the beginning of your festival run. And I'm really happy for you on that. You're about to experience
Yeah,
that
next week.
next week. Are you excited, nervous? How are you feeling?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm also nervous because I've yet to see the film on a big screen in full 4K with 5.1. Like I've yet to really see that, so it's always nervous to see your work.
And everyone is
with
coming
that.
out for that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, that's a once in a lifetime thing. Like I'm never going to be able to say that I've watched my first feature for the first time on a big screen ever again. That's going to be a core memory.
This entire journey, like looking back at from making your first feature, getting to where you are, anything you'd have done different?
I know I
Tiffany.
mentioned this earlier,
Yeah.
but having a sales agent come in and give us the numbers in pre-production or in development, that's the biggest ticket. Understanding territories way earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you figured out your next thing?
Well, there are 3 projects that are being written by 3 separate writers, and it's sort of like whichever one is ready to go first.
I'm so excited for you, Tiffany. Just to kind of wrap this up, I appreciate you. I appreciate you
I
chatting with me.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
This is great.
But yeah, till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
Bye.
That wraps up today's conversation. If you're on the journey to make your first film or just want to hear more about filmmaking experiences, subscribe on Spotify and YouTube and connect with us on Instagram. Stay tuned for the next one.